My name is Bronwyn Cregan and I teach at Highgate Primary School, which is an inner city school in Perth, Western Australia. I teach a Year 3 class and I have 20 students in my class, 7 of whom are learning English as an additional language. So I use the EALD learning progression to plot my students on this continuum, and 4 of my 7 EALD students are solidly within the developing phase, and 2 of the students are just moving now from the emerging phase into the developing phase, and 1 little girl is still within the emerging phase. So basically I use the content descriptors and elaborations in the Australian curriculum to underpin my planning, and I integrate the 3 strands, the language, the literature and literacy strands. And so I kept all of this in mind when I chose the book that was going to be the initial focus of our narrative unit, and it's called The Iron Man by Ted Hughes. So in the first few lessons of my narrative unit, we focused on how authors appeal to us as readers through our senses and through our emotions. So what we're going to try and do now is we're going to think about all the words that we can come up with that might describe what each character or characters might be feeling. Now, instead of you just talking to me, what I thought we might do is pair up, turn towards each other, and I'm going to time you. Okay, ready? Let's think about what Hogarth was feeling like.
Panic stricken, shaken, terrified, petrified, frightened, scared, yeah.
So in the end we came up with a huge bank of synonyms that they had at their disposal then to do the next follow-on activity. The next activity we're going to do is we're going to do some sequencing. So the sequencing activity was about reading, it was about discussing where did these events happen in sequence, which is a very important skill in itself. And that could be done, the EALD students could either be in a group with just one other person who might also be learning English as an additional language, or it could be with another student who is a proficient user of the English language, so that they get scaffolded in that way. My argument would be that the oral language component, that you give them lots of opportunities to actually stop and discuss and use the language, so that this follow-on activity was part of that process of taking those words that other children might have suggested and actually using them yourself, so that they possibly might become part of your vernacular. So we've got to think about how all those farmers must have felt that morning when they woke up.
Petrified.
Petrified.
Confused.
Yeah, confused, yeah.
Angry and vulnerable.
Angry and vulnerable and puzzled, which is almost the same as confused, isn't it? So after all of the oral discussion in all the previous activities, they were given a writing task. So they had to write a diary entry of Hogarth, the little boy who had experienced all these events. They had to write it in the first person, so as if they were Hogarth. For my 2 EALD students in particular who need extra scaffolding, I gave them the sequence of events, and they were able to use this as a basis for their diary entries. And at various points I would sit with them and individually conference with them and really address some of their needs at the point of need. He told who? Did he tell you? He told you, didn't he? But we're writing it from Hogarth's point of view. He told me the things that had happened to him. Do you know what I've liked about this? Is that you described their feelings, and you're using some of those words that we were using when we were doing the activities in the class. So that's really good. That's exactly what I wanted you to do. Well done. I found particularly helpful the annotated, or EALD annotated content descriptions, because they gave me the content descriptors from the Australian curriculum and then went through and gave me the cultural and linguistic considerations that I'd have to take into account when addressing these content descriptors, and then gave me some teaching strategies as well. So for instance, it suggested that perhaps the children in say, responding to literature and that sort of section, that the EALD students bring in examples of their own literature or in stories that they had enjoyed or enjoy reading at home. And I hadn't thought of this, and I thought it was a great idea, and so I put that into my narrative unit.